Hi, it's Dan Foster, Market Development Agronomist for Pride Seeds. Today we're standing in a field in Dover Township, just northwest of Chatham. Sandy muck type soil that received frost over the weekend. It was corn that was planted around May the 5th, 6th, so it's had a pretty good start. And what we're going to assess today is some frost damage and how we can go about assessing what our next step is. So in this field, there's areas of the field that are worse, and there's areas of the fields that are better, and that really goes towards elevation and soil type. So what I'm going to show you is a few different plants we have here. So the first thing we're looking at is a plant that was really untouched except for a little bit on the leaves by the frost this weekend. And it is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 leaf corn plant pushing 6 with new growth. So the weather conditions we've come into, we've received about 2.5 inches of rain over the last day and a half. So we have good moist growing conditions now. We also are starting to get some heat, which today's temperature is supposed to go up to 26 degrees Celsius. It's very humid, so we're really going into some excellent growing conditions for corn. It's got good moisture, it's got good heat, and the nutrients are there, as well as you can see an excellent root system coming along on these plants. So the next plant I have is one that was froze pretty well, but what you can see is the new growth coming out of the whorl and pushing through the dead necrotic tissue that happened due to the frost. So this plant may start to show some onion leafing when it gets a little bigger as that growing point pushes through there, just because it's caught, but ultimately not going to cause any damage. So the third plant we have here is one that hasn't started to show anything in the way of new regrowth yet. Now, based on the fact that the last 2 days haven't been as warm and it's been raining, it's nothing to be worried about yet. But when we cut this plant open, we can see that the center of this plant still has nice green tissue, which will likely grow through based on the weather conditions we're going into. Okay, so in between these two red flags, I've measured off 17.5 feet. Since we're in 30-inch rows, that's equivalent to 1/1000th of an acre. So when we count the number of plants that are in this section of row that I've measured off, we times it by 1,000, that'll be the number of plants that we have emerged. So I did the counts, and I counted the ones that looked pretty bad as well as the good ones, so a full count of what was emerged before the frost, and we were at 33,000, basically what the grower dropped. Then I counted the plants that looked to have zero or minimal frost damage, which is about 10,000 plants, or 10 plants. So what that leaving us is about 23 plants that have some more severe damage showing. Now what I'm going to do is come back in another 3 or 4 days to assess the damage again after we get some heat, continue with the rain, to see if there's any further actions needed. So when we're going to assess the options that we have as we move forward, we have to really look at the number of plants we have left based on planting date and what the yield potential is from that. So based on this field that was planted around May the 6th, the yield potential, with over 30,000 plants emerged, was 100%. As we get later and later for planting, our yield potential steadily decreases. So even if we get down into 20,000 plants planted on May the 6th left in this field with a full season variety, we still have 90% plus potential for yield. If we go in and replant, we will have, at 30,000 emerged on, say, June the 3rd, when this dries out, our yield potential is actually less than the 20,000 planted on May the 6th. So with this field, the conclusion that I'm going to leave this farmer with is that we still need to give this field another 2 or 3 days. We're going to come back, reassess the damage again, and then really be able to make an educated decision based on what we're seeing then. The plants are starting to regrow through that whorl. The new growth is coming along. The existing plants that weren't froze look very good. I think patience is the key word here that we just need to have while we're going to assess this damage.